Why aren't the Utah Jazz making trades like the Brooklyn Nets are? And oh my gosh, what happens if Will Hardy had a point guard? It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps and on YouTube. Thank you very much for tuning in. We also have a free daily newsletter, which you can get at lockedondaily.com. Go for the Utah Jazz. Get your Locked on Jazz. It includes exclusive Empty the Noggin after every game. So make sure you grab that. Today's show coming up for you, which is, first off, thank you very much for tuning in and making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. Hope you had a nice holidays, getting ready for the new year. Why aren't the Jazz making trades like the Brooklyn Nets are? And the tank train is super full, is where we'll start. Then we'll get to what happened. The Jazz late game offense just needs a point guard, and it's so on fire and rolling right now. What happens if we actually gave Will Hardy a point guard? And as always, we do Trends Monday. So let's go back to the start of this. The Brooklyn Nets have made 2 trades so far, unloading talent. They've garnered a bunch of second-round draft picks. They are now in full tank mode. The tank train is very full right now, which is a problem. There are too many teams that are shooting for the bottom. We now have Brooklyn, who's 12-20 and is not going to get to 20 wins. Charlotte is 7-24 and doesn't look like they're getting to 20 wins. Toronto is 7-25 and doesn't look like they're getting to 20 wins. Washington is 5-24 and is they've won 3 of their last 7, but does not look like they're getting to 20 wins. Portland's 11-20. Not sure what they're doing. Utah's 7-23 and Orlando's 5-27. We could have 5, if not 6 teams at sub 20 wins right now as everyone plays this game and gets to the Cooper Flag, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper sweepstakes. It is going to be a massive race to the bottom, and Brooklyn is jumped on by trading Dennis Schroeder to the Golden State Warriors, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Shake Milton to the Los Angeles Lakers for D'Angelo Russell, who I don't think will play for them. So why aren't the Jazz doing this? Well, let's walk through it. The Jazz have 3 contracts that would make sense to be traded that are on players who would help another team in a playoff run, right? So Dennis Schroeder's to help the Warriors, and then Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton supposedly will help the Lakers. Lowry's not available to be traded. John Collins makes $26.5 million. Collin Sexton makes $18.3 million, and Jordan Clarkson makes $14.1 million. And then after that, Drew Eubanks we probably could trade. He's a $5 million player. Svi is a $3.5 million. Those are minor deals. We'll see what happens with those. But DeAnthony Melton played for the Golden State Warriors, tore his ACL, and was available there to be traded. And the Warriors traded him and got 3 second-round draft picks for Dennis Schroeder. The only answer I have for this one is Dennis Schroeder makes $13 million, and he has no contract next year. So Jordan Clarkson, who makes $14 million, would have been the logical player for the Warriors to go get instead of Dennis Schroeder. And you can decide whether you think that Dennis Schroeder or Jordan Clarkson is better. But Jordan Clarkson also has $14.3 million on the books next year that Dennis Schroeder does not. And when you suddenly consider those that piece, I'm pretty certain that the Warriors think that Dennis Schroeder, with no contract next year, when they're over the apron and they're trying to get rid of contracts, is a much better pickup than Jordan Clarkson, who has $14 million on next year's deal. Okay. But that is it. So the Warriors chose, assuming that the Jazz were willing to trade Jordan Clarkson for 3 second-round draft picks, which I don't know to be true, but I also would be surprised if they didn't. So I don't know that to be true, that the Jazz would be willing to do that deal. Jordan's been amazing and doing everything right, and they do want veteran leadership around. But I do think 3 second-round draft picks for Jordan Clarkson at this point would be a pretty good deal. I think it would be hard to turn down, and I do believe that every player in the NBA is available for the right price, other than Lauri Markkanen, who can't be traded, so he's not available. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is that the Los Angeles Lakers just acquired Dorian Finney-Smith, who makes $14.95 million and has a player option for next year, I think he will at 31 pick up. And Shake Milton, who makes $2.8 million, $3 million, and $3.2 million in the next 3 years. So that had some money on it. The combination of those two numbers is 17.3. Well, that gets us right about the 18.3 of Collin Sexton. So the Lakers could have made a deal for the exact same package of D'Angelo Russell and a bunch of second-round draft picks, because D'Angelo Russell's 18.6 and Collin Sexton matches that perfectly at 18.3 for Collin Sexton. Or the Lakers could have, frankly, done that. Lakers could have traded us D'Angelo Russell for Collin Sexton. Now, again, Collin Sexton has $19.2 million on his books for next year. And the Lakers probably are assuming that Dorian Finney-Smith is going to opt out of his $15 million. The Lakers have, obviously, LeBron at $52 million, maybe opting out. Anthony Davis at 54, Rui Hachimura at 18, Austin Reeves at 14, Gabe Vincent at 11. They must assume that because this deal gets them under the apron, second apron, and as it's with D'Angelo Russell's contract expiring next year, they must assume Dorian Finney-Smith. So the question then is, well, why would the Lakers want Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton instead of Collin Sexton? They might just want Dorian Finney-Smith's wing help. And Dorian Finney-Smith can play a little small five and can guard some fives adequately. So maybe they just decided it's a better fit. They also could have decided they didn't want Collin Sexton's $19 million next year. And the Jazz also could have decided that Collin Sexton is really, really good right now and is worth way more than what the Brooklyn Nets got for Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton. The Jazz also could decide at some point in this process that Collin Sexton is 26 years old. And even if it's going to be the 30-31 season when we're really good again, or sometime in that range, unless something non-draft picky happens, if we're going draft picks, just make sure we all have this. If we're going that we are drafting a stud this year, and then we do probably have to draft top 5 again next year, and then we probably have to drop top 5-ish again the next year to get 2 stud players like a Jason Tatum and a Jaylen Brown, or like that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. If we're trying to get 2 or 3, like Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero, we probably got to do it for 3 years to guarantee we're getting 2 of them. And then you're 3 to 4 to 5 years out on each of those players, so that the player you draft in 2025 is good in the 2029-30 season. And then the one you draft good in the 30-31 season, the next season's good in 30-31, the next one 31-32. So if we go the draft mode, we're good in 30-31, 31-32, when those players are 4 or 5 years in the league and ready to. Collin, at that point, still might be viable at 32. Right? 7 years from now, he's 30. 6-7 years from now, he's 31-32. Collin still might be really good. The other thing is Collin's balling right now. So Collin, you may not want to move because the dude's averaging 22 points over the last 5 games. He is balling. Someone may be looking at him saying, okay, that's first-round draft pick. That the Warriors' second-round draft picks are not worthy of Collin Sexton. So there's one of 3 reasons why the Jazz aren't making deals yet. 1, the other teams don't want their players. They want the players they got. 2, both Jordan and Collin were the guys that would go on those contracts. You can just look at it and see. And they have money on their deal next year. And that makes it harder. Or 3, the Jazz are saying, wait. we're not totally in on moving our guys for second round draft picks that when they're as good as they're. The Jazz offense is thriving. Crazy. And then late game, it struggled. And the contrast to the two makes me just say, like, what would happen if we had a point guard? And also, what is Will Hardy capable of doing offensively? It's all next on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross, also in Logan. The Chevy lineup of trucks, just awesome. That's the Silverado, the Colorado, the SUV lineup, the Tahoe, the Suburban. Those are the Utah County assault vehicles that just rip. The Equinox, the Trax, and then the Trailblazers. All there for you at Murdoch Chevy. Late year, snow's coming in. Want that truck, want that big car. Let's get it done for you at Murdoch Chevy. Let's give you the VIP treatment you deserve by being a Locked On every day. Or email me at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up with the VIP treatment that you deserve at Murdoch Chevy. Today's show is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money is here to do a bunch of great things for. Actually, wait 1 second. I might have made a mistake there. Let me make sure. Yes. No, I did make a mistake there. It's kind of a funny mistake. So we have two sponsors right now. One is Rocket Money, and the other is Rocket RX. And they're not the same. They do not do the same things. They might both be really good for you. They both might make you happy, but they do it in very different ways. So let me tell you about Rocket RX, because you can visit rocketrx.com, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and get 40% off your first order, but it would not be the same thing as Rocket Money. Rocket RX is here to boost your confidence and take control in the bedroom. Rocket RX has the solution. Imagine feeling prepared and perform at your best. Rocket RX makes it simple and stress-free. Rocket RX offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at lower cost than branded alternatives. No more uncomfortable doctor visits or pharmacy trips. Everything is delivered straight to your door in discreet, clean packaging. With Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from a U.S. clinical team, complete, quick, 100% consultation, and you could get your free prescription today. Visit rocketrx.com to get started now. It only takes 2 minutes. Right now, our listeners get 40% off your first order with Locked On NBA. That's Rocket RX. The code is Locked On NBA for 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX, better sex made simple. So the Utah Jazz offense is just thriving. Absolutely thriving. Let me give you some of the numbers. In the last 10 games, it ranks 9th in the NBA. They're the third best shooting team in the last 10 games. Their three-point shooting is as good as it gets in the NBA in the last 10 games, and their catch-and-shoot game is at 46%. Will Hardy has found a way to get these guys wide-open looks, and they're knocking them down. And it's pretty awesome on a team that has like one guy who does a lot of dribble drive. In the last 10 games on catch-and-shoots, Lowry's at 37%. Johnny, and taking 76 of them in 9 games. That is awesome. Johnny Juzang's at 53%. John Collins was at 53%. Bryce Sensabaugh was actually really good last night, was the one guy struggling. Collin Sexton is 12 of his last 20. Svi Mykhailiuk was 11 of 20. Keontae George was 9 of his last 14. And Jordan Clarkson's actually 7 of his last 13. Pretty impressive. I mean, really, really impressive stuff. And if you look at the team shooting right now over the last 10 games, or the last 11 games, the Jazz are 41.2% from three. Only the Cleveland Cavaliers are better. In the catch and shoot game, the Jazz are, I think, second best in the NBA as well. The Jazz in the last 10 games are behind Memphis. They're at 46%, 45.5, and Memphis at 45.8. So the Jazz are the number 2 catch and shoot team. It's awesome. kind of without a point guard. And frankly, some of that without a point guard stuff was pretty obvious last night. The other thing they've done, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to show you 3 plays last night that I just, it's just a bummer because you can see where the offense is working and coming together, and then it doesn't happen because I just think there's not great decision-making and guys being put in non-natural positions. The other thing the Jazz have done about 8 games ago is they changed Lauri Markkanen's rotation. Lauri was playing in 3 stints. He was playing short, sit out short, come back short, sit out, come back in. Now he's playing almost the entire first quarter, between 9 and 12 minutes every first quarter. Then he sits out and plays the final 6 minutes. And he's averaging 2 more points a game because of it, and he's averaging 4 more points a game in the first quarter. So I think that's a part of what's happening. All right, I want to show you some plays last night because honestly, I just think it summarizes a little bit of where the Jazz are and where they're not able to make some of the plays that you would like them to be able to make. And you're wondering, like, well, how do we lose these games? And then you can see the offenses where the play worked. It's a nice setup, or just we didn't quite get it right. So let's watch these 3 plays here late where I just am not sure. You can decide, and they're all pretty quick in the NBA here. You can decide whether you think the read is good enough or not. But here's the first one. And Jordan drives, and Embiid is in the lane, and Jordan just goes. Like, this is just, I'm going to go one-on-one ISO. Sexton either had gone one-on-one ISO the play before or this, then Sexton. Let me see what order this is. Because we end up, for one stretch, Clarkson goes one-on-one. The next play, Sexton goes one-on-one, which isn't great. So Clarkson drives, and he's going to drive, and Jordan's really good with his right hand and not very good with his left. If there is a play where you could lob to Walker, it sure seems like right now a quick lob to Walker gets there. Embiid is down. Walker's in the spot. And instead, Jordan kind of gets caught in between, misses the left-hand layup fairly badly, and Jordan's not as good going to his left hand. Okay, so there's the first one. Here's the next one. This is a nice double stagger that the Jazz run a lot. Lauri sets the first pick. This is really hard for them to defend because Embiid is back, so you're getting drop coverage. Lauri's going to flare out. If they don't switch it, then it comes into something. So Lauri flares out. Clarkson drives. Lauri is pretty open, by the way, here. Oubre is now on Clarkson's hip. There is nothing good that can happen at this moment. Like, I don't know what Jordan does to get out of jail, but I can tell you that right now, at this moment in time, when Jordan comes around this pick and roll, Walker's rolling, Embiid's in the middle of the lane, there is nothing good that can happen here. Like, get off this. Now, Collin is in the right corner and could take it. Lauri's open to flare back, and Jordan takes it into the lane. Embiid swipes at him, which makes Jordan think that he has a pass to Walker. He throws it up there, and Embiid's such an incredible athlete that Embiid walks it, and we turn it over. Now, I slowed that down. We do it in full speed.
You have to play.
And you still can see it. Like, it's – and frankly, Bryce Sensabaugh's wide open as Paul George comes in. Paul George sucks in on the far side. Bryce Sensabaugh, who's hot, is wide open in the corner. It's a very basic double stagger play. And it didn't work out. Here's another one. Late game. Clarkson comes to the front court. I will show you another play. I'm about to sneeze. I apologize. Clarkson comes to the front court.
11.
Nice pick from Kessler. We've got Lauri in the right corner this time, so he's going to come to the strong side. And you have what is actually going to be like a Spain pick and roll here. Sexton's going to set a pick on Embiid, which then opens up 10. Walker. There's the pick on Embiid, which opens up Walker to roll. Embiid's not rolling. This is a lob to Walker. This is a lob to Walker. But Clarkson goes too deep, and he can't get off of it.
Front court,
and then he's short for the shot. But the moment that Sexton sets this pick perfectly, and it's a Spain pick and roll, you know Walker's going to be available. Or Bryce Sensabaugh in the left corner is butt naked open. Oubre is a good defensive player, but again, you just wonder what this team might be able to do if it had a point guard. There were some really nice plays last night. And then there's one, like, this is a beautiful, beautiful play last night. This is the Jazz offense kind of running at its finest. So, and this is hard to guard if you're Philadelphia. This is a go-to play. Kessler sets a high pick off ball. We set the most off-ball picks of any team in the NBA. So here, and we usually do it out of a pin down, but this is different. We're going to set it up high. So now, marketing comes off of it. Nice pick by Kessler. And Sexton dribbles right at Lowry and gives him a handoff. This forces 6'1" Tyrese Maxey to switch onto Lowry marking, and Lowry just bogarts him, turns the corner, drives the lane, and also, by the way, has a wide open Jordan Clarkson, a wide open Collin Sexton, and a wide open Bryce Sensabaugh. Everyone's open on this play. Lowry does the right thing because he's an all-star. And drives in, he scores over Embiid. And boy, do I wish we had a point guard. Because on the next play, we run the same play, and it doesn't happen. It gets all confused. Jordan. This is, let's see. The next time we run it, they make a really interesting change, and they try to figure out where this play is. Collin, it probably is this jump ball, and I probably don't have the play because the NBA doesn't have it. The next time we run that play, Collin ends up misreading and Lowry, and they misunderstand what each other are, and then they don't have Embiid engaged in it, and Collin ends up running a pick and roll with Paul George, getting Paul George on him, which is the last player you want on him, which again begs if we only had a point guard. So the offense is thriving. It's going nuts. It's doing incredible things, and it made me look up, what was Will Hardy's offense when he did have a point guard? And when the Jazz traded Mike Conley, remember that? So Will Hardy had a real true point guard in Mike Conley for the first portion of his career. And on February 8th of 2023, the Jazz had the fourth best offense in the NBA, with Denver, Sacramento, and Boston were better. That's it. Denver, Sacramento, and Boston. I think that should be pretty exciting to you as a Jazz fan. That right now, this offense, which really doesn't have a point guard, and with Keontae out recently, has been playing with Collin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson, who are not thought of as point guards, and you could just see it there. They're trying, not out of lack of effort or desire. It's just not who they are. It's not why they get paid. We're the ninth best offense in the NBA, with the third best shooting percentage, with the fifth most common going to the free throw line in the last 10 games, with the second best catch and shoot and the second best three-point shooting. Pretty awesome. Trends Monday is next on Locked On Jazz. Thank you very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. I super appreciate it. We are free and available on all podcast apps. And sign up for the newsletter. It's awesome. Here's the news. What's great about the newsletter? It's your ultimate one NBA stop. You're going to get a Jazz story. Then you get Katie Heindl's national story. On Thursdays, you get Mike Schreier, who's fabulous. You get all the links to the most important Jazz stories and all the most important NBA stories. And you get fantasy tips with Josh Lloyd. It's awesome. Go to LockedOnDaily.com to sign up. All right, Trends Monday. We do this every Monday. We take a look at here's how we do it. We take a look at the last 10 games, who's hot, who's not, and then we look at the last 2 weeks to see if we can see micro trends inside of that. So the number one team in the NBA over the last 10 games is the 9-1 Cleveland Cavaliers, who have a differential of 16.2. The Thunder are 10-0 and have a differential of 15. And Memphis continues to hang around with a differential of 11. Then the Knicks and the Celtics, and then the Nuggets, who we play, are the sixth best team in the NBA, despite being 6-4. Teams that are really struggling: Toronto, -14, 0-10. Portland minus 11, Charlotte minus 10, Washington minus 9, New Orleans minus 8, and Utah minus 7.5. The tank train is full. Golden State, who got a nice win last night, is minus 7.3. But that is kind of where we're at. Top offenses in the NBA. Last 10 games. Cleveland's rolling. 124. Offensive rating, huge. Denver's number 2. Memphis is number 3. Dallas number 4. Indiana's clicked back in. They're number 5. That's important right there. Indiana's clicked back in. Boston 6. New York 7. Oklahoma City 8. The Sacramento Kings have a positive differential because of probably what they did to us over the last 10 games with a 114 offense, and they just fired their coach. And Utah is 10. Teams that cannot score right now: Orlando does not have enough players to score. Charlotte, Toronto, Washington, Brooklyn, and Minnesota still at 25th, and Golden State is at 24th. Teams that are defending: Oklahoma City defensive rating in the last 10 games is a 100.7. Minnesota's is a 105.7, and then the next is Cleveland at 107. So Oklahoma City is just defending at a totally different rate than anyone else. Minnesota was there for a little while. Houston and Memphis and New York. So the Knicks, by the way, have clicked in both offensively and defensively. Teams that are not defending: Portland, Utah, Toronto, Detroit, Phoenix, the Pelicans, and the Wizards. Let's look at the last 2 weeks. We begin to have a little bit more full cycle of games in this 2 weeks. The hottest team in the league continues to be Cleveland by a lot, actually, by plus 25. Then New York plus 14, Houston plus 13, Oklahoma City plus 11. Clippers have won 405 and are plus 10, and then Memphis. Coldest teams in the league: New Orleans, Toronto, Charlotte, Brooklyn. There's the trend. Brooklyn, Portland, and Golden State. Utah is only minus 4.3, is 19th in the league. We do not seem to be on the tank train quite the way everybody else is. Offenses over the last 2 weeks: Cleveland's is an absurd 135.2. Craziness. Next closest is Denver at 123. Then New York, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta. Quinn Snyder's got that team playing really well. They have the 8th best win differential in the league, 13th offense, 16th defense. Impressive. So those are the top 6 teams that cannot score right now: Brooklyn, Charlotte, Orlando, New Orleans, San Antonio. That's weird to me. Miami. That's weird to me. And Minnesota. Top defenses in the NBA: Oklahoma City. The Clippers are number 2 over the last 2 weeks. San Antonio's number 3. San Antonio over the last 2 weeks is 26th offensively and 3rd defensively. Houston, 3rd best differential, 5th offense, 4th defense. Keep an eye on that. How they're scoring, I don't know. Orlando's 5th defense, and the next of the teams they're not defending: Portland's defensive ratings of 124. Toronto, Denver, who we play, New Orleans, Golden State, Detroit. Utah's defense over the last 2 weeks is a 21st in the league. 116. That's really good. And really good for the Jazz, who have not been that good. So that is your Trends Monday. Interesting little things to keep an eye on there and see what's happening. And that is your Monday edition of Locked on Jazz. Here's the deal. This is a little funky. So I'll try to get a newsletter out for you on Tuesday, on the 31st. We're flying after the game today to New York on a red eye. I have no idea what state of mind I'm going to be in when I get to New York. But if I'm feeling good, I'll just do a podcast and give you one on the 31st. And then probably give you one on the 2nd from New York, and then the 3rd from Miami. And then we'll have it for you. So that's the plan, at least. Hope you're doing great. Thanks so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate you. This has been Locked on Jazz. Check out the first ever national 24/7 NBA channel on YouTube, Locked on NBA. Also, after every night's action is game night at Locked on NBA.